Hi all, this is Skate, and this is the Amx Cdc. I want to have a quick look at this tank today, and also quickly, well very quickly, run through the Lost Division event. The event itself I think is very straightforward, very self-explanatory, and as a result I don't think too much detail is required on it. And in fact, it looks like we can get ourselves a lot of crates with this one. So, the event in short. We need crates, and within the crates there are different vehicles, and there are different extras, so to speak. But nobody cares about the extras. Everybody wants the vehicles. Actually, that's probably a little bit harsh. There are probably people who are interested in getting the extra, smaller things which aren't the vehicles. I just want the vehicles. Even though I've already got them, I know they're going to pay out a wad when it comes to credits, things like that. Boosters, truth be told, I haven't actually used them yet since they came into the game. The reason I haven't used them is because prior to the French tanks coming out, I had every tank. So based on that, I had no need for all the extra XP basically. But now that French tanks are here, well, I'm going to start using them. There are two ways you can obtain crates within this event. Either via collecting intel or spending money. Now the intel you can collect from missions basically. Same with every other event. You complete a mission, you get a certain amount of intel. This one, I say, is much easier because, well, you can do 3 missions and have nearly enough for 2 crates. One of the, or containers rather, will cost you 250 intel. You'll see the missions here. I got 101 from just this mission. But this mission set got me a total of, or gets me a total of 430 intel, which as I said is just shy of being able to get 2. Once you've got your intel, you go across to storage and then hit containers in the middle and obviously open the containers. The other alternative is to go to the bundles within the store and you'll see many different options on ones you can buy. The ones you can buy, there are a much higher chance of getting the tanks. But personally, I'm going to just wait until the end of the event to see if I can get the Amx Cdc via the normal containers. So, the event is very straightforward. Now, I think it's well established that I like to pretty much buy every tank I can. I'm a little bit of a tank hoarder. However, I'm in no rush to get this tank. Yet, this is a fantastically fun tank to play. And if I missed out on this tank, basically because I didn't want to spend money or something like that, and I didn't get it from the containers, I wouldn't actually be that disappointed. But I've really enjoyed testing it. It's fun. I also think it's a very good looking tank. But you'll notice I have filtered down the bottom premium medium tanks at tier 7 and tier 8. And yes, I am looking at Dracula here. Now I'm sure 90% of people are well aware of this. But for those who aren't, Wargaming based this tank off the Amx Cdc. And for all intents and purposes, this tank plays the same, just a tier lower. But there are differences between them. And the differences aren't always in the Amx Cdc's favour. For example, here. Based off the same tank, Wargaming designed it off this tank, but look at the size difference between them. Yeah. Basically, those nice big squishy sides are exceptionally bigger. And because it sees tier 9, it sees bigger guns. And more often than not, those bigger guns do much more damage with HE. So that for me doesn't go in the AMX's favour. Comparing the AMX to other tanks of the same tier, other medium tanks, you'll see it's pretty much the biggest there is. Although it's the biggest, it has literally 0 armor, and as a result, it is very, very fast. But again, it's not faster than Dracula. So I'm going to compare the two in tank compare quickly just to show you the differences, and you'll see what I mean. I've put the other 2 tanks in there just for comparatives, basically. But what I want to compare is Dracula and the Amx Cdc. First thing you'll notice, there is nothing in between them when it comes to DPM. DPM's virtually the same, there's only about 60 difference a minute between them. Alpha, well, it's identical, and rate of fire is nearly identical. The only place this differs, really, well, penetration there. but you are going to be shooting tier 6, 7 and 8 instead of 7, 8 and 9, so it's not as bad as it looks on paper. When we look at the handling, this is where we start to see differences. The reason we can see differences is because the AMX can fit a vertical stabilizer. The Dracula can't. So the aim time on the AMX with this setup is 1.68 and 1.95 with Dracula. Gun dispersion 0.301 with the AMX and 0.346 with Dracula. Basically, the gun aims faster and is slightly more accurate. Strangely enough though, Dracula is more accurate on the move with a 0.12 accuracy instead of 0.16. The other thing to take into consideration then, Dracula's faster. AMX has 57 km top speed, Dracula has 65. And Dracula is smaller, so it has a better power to weight ratio and it's a smaller target. So there are differences and there are pros to both. But tier for tier, Dracula is stronger. So, here's my logic on it. I want this tank because it's a very good tank and it's very good fun to play. And it makes very good credits. But I've got Dracula at tier 7, so if I don't end up getting this, it's not the end of the world because I can go hop in my Dracula and basically have exactly the same playstyle. So in the Halloween event, if you went for Van Helsing, I would say this is a must, because then you've pretty much got the best of both worlds. You've got that monster tier 7 tank destroyer, and aside from it being slightly bigger, with a better gun, but slower, it's pretty much Dracula. As I mentioned, it is only my opinion, but I still think Dracula's stronger tier for tier. But this gives you a chance to pretty much own both of them, which is why, because I already have Dracula, as I've already said, I'm not overly bothered if I don't get hold of this tank. Well, it's not the end of the world for me. I'm not going to be gutted and... Well, make a load of you laugh, I missed out on Kenny Otsu because at the time Kenny came out, I was travelling around Asia. So I didn't get a chance to pick up Kenny, and I was very, very, very gutted about that. This one, though, I can let it pass and be happy knowing I still have Dracula. I am still going to try and get it, and I am going to use just the intel. I'm not going to spend for this one myself. And that's not me saying don't spend on it. We all know what Dracula's like in-game. It's the most frustrating tank in the world as it comes flying past you and puts a shell in you and just carries on going. And you don't even have a chance to hit it. I mean, can you see why I've included this replay? Oh yes, AMX and friendly Dracula are going to be teaming up. And we pretty much do exactly the same thing because, well, it's the same tank. So if you are looking for another tank, we all know what Dracula's like in game. I'm not going to say this tank is OP. It's not OP. Not by any shape or form. Anything with a big derpy gun comes after you, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. But this tank is so much fun for trolling people. Going past them at full speed, putting a shell into them, and continuing to run away. Or tracking them as they come around the corner, because you know that Dracula has flanked. And you know you can reverse quicker than that VK can come after me. And by the time he does, well, if you look, there's now a Dracula on his butt. So I gotta give it to this Dracula driver. He knew exactly what he was doing and what he needed to do so we could work as a team. Basically, he went flying around the back while the VK was distracted by me. Now the VK was distracted by the Dracula. Dracula's hiding and I'm going in to take some damage. So we are literally double teaming this guy. And this is one of my favourite things about World of Tanks Blitz. Meeting another random player, not communicating with each other, and you know exactly how to function. Like I said, that was a perfect example of it. I tracked him, kept him there distracted, Dracula came around the flank. Then as soon as he was distracted by Dracula, that was when I needed to come out and help Dracula. That player's name is Ablina_GRC from the Fury clan. We need more players like you in World of Tanks, mate. And I haven't included this replay because I did amazing damage, or because the Dracula did amazing damage. I've included this replay because, well, it shows how Dracula and the Amx Cdc are very similar in their playstyle. In fact, it's the same playstyle. And the other reason I've included it is because I loved the fact there was another team player and we both knew what each other was meant to do in that circumstance. And for me, seeing someone being a team player, working functioning correctly with a team member they've never spoke to is great, and to me that's just as exciting as watching a mastery replay. Let's be fair, everybody has complained at some point about their team not supporting them, etc, etc. But everybody has also once or twice had that circumstance where they've been in trouble and a team member has come back to help them. And that's a good feeling. Whenever that situation's happened, you instantly go, affirmative. Followed by going, oh, what a nice guy, he came back to help me. Anyway, on with this replay though. You'll notice that Dracula there was pulling away from me. As I mentioned, it is faster. And also on the enemy team, which has just popped up right in front of me, is the platoon of enemy Amx Cdcs. Now, if you're not in a platoon and you're all alone in your Amx Cdc, don't be frontline, don't get shot. That is the best recommendation I could make, and this is exactly why I've run back to my team with my tail between my legs. Then once my team are pushing up, then I'll push up with them. I played this the same as I did the Dracula. I'd fly up ahead and spot, and then I'd pull back. I got lucky with that dodge there. That was so close. But no, I'll go up fast, I'll spot, and I'll pull back to my team. Because if I'm the only focal point to be shot at, well, you can pretty much guarantee everything that shoots you is going to penetrate you. And if you are the focal point and you are getting shot at by more than one on the enemy team, you are not going to last very long at all. Which is why I wait for the team, I spot the team nowhere to go back to them, and then, in situations like this, I've got all the team with me, and there's a lonely KV3 by there. Now, I could stick with the team, or I could run ahead, take potentially one shot off him, and distract him, because you know he's going to turn his gun. Look, as soon as you get around the side of him, he's got several tanks in front of him, but naturally I'm on his arse, so he wants to turn around and shoot the tank on his arse. In doing so though, he just gave the back of his turret to 6 friendly tanks. Now, although I said I wouldn't usually go I usually wouldn't go running ahead, I don't like the idea of running ahead into several enemy guns with no armor whatsoever. It's suicidal. However, one-on-ones is very different. And if the enemy tank is slow, then I'm more than happy to get myself into a one-on-one with that tank. I have less health than that Tiger P I'm coming up against now. Granted, he is a tier lower, but this is where the AMX struggles in comparison to the Dracula. The Dracula would have been able to pull a much tighter circle in this circumstance. However, it just lacks that speed. Like I said, the speed is great, but it's just lacking that little bit to circle tightly against enemies. Which either falls down to the track traverse, or that would fall down to the ground resistance, which is obviously figures we can't see. Now that game, 2,200 damage, but there's 60,000 credits. On to the next battle though. I have only played 8 battles in the Amx Cdc on the contributor account, of which 4 were on Himmelsdorf. Now this game, it's not a mastery game. You'll notice this video is also shorter than usual as well, and I haven't gone into as much depth as I usually like to with tanks. Now the reason I haven't gone into as much detail is because I wanted to throw up a preview as quick as I could, just so people who do want this tank and do want as much information on this tank as they can basically make an early decision whether or not they want to start spending money in the store or just do the whole intel thing like I am. So I'm going to refer to this as a preview rather than a full in-depth review or guide. Or in fact, we could say it's a review. I'm giving you my opinions on the tank, but we're not doing a guide. There we go. You'd be surprised how much this is commented on in the comments section. And by the way, I love the comments, and I do read as many as I can. I usually make sure I take a good hour or so out every now and then to reply to as many as I can as well. Now, I mentioned earlier about derp guns, and sticking your tank in front of a derp gun is a bad idea. In this situation, I decided to go for gold and try get around the SU-152 before he managed to get a shot into me. Which we did. We did no problem at all, actually. With the speed on this thing, you can get it to where you need it to go very quickly. That was risky and probably very stupid, actually. If he managed to connect his shot as I went past, or even if he just clutched the shot to try and get it into me, yeah, he would have done I'd say about 80% of my health in that one shot. But this is the reason I like this tank. Obviously, you can see we ran away from that IS there because he was turning his gun. We've just got one into him. There's an AMX pointing his gun. We are running away from him as well. We've got one in our butt, but we're going to get one into the IS-6 butt, and we're just going to keep going. It's just... You can just irritate people with this tank. Obviously, there's Helsing. There was Helsing. And yes, I did just load APCR to shoot the front of that Helsing. You have no idea how many times I've bounced off that lower plate. And being as I was running around like a lunatic, I wanted to guarantee the kill. And I've just reminded myself, I mentioned the health on this thing. This has 1,250 hit points, exactly the same as what Dracula does a tier lower. There is no tactics to this gameplay either, by the way. It is literally, I'm driving around and I'm going to find someone all by themselves and lonely and pick shots off of them. The other thing is when I was running around like a nutter, it causes a distraction, it causes a scene, which allows your team to actually take advantage of that. So it may just seem like I'm being an idiot. I am actually being an idiot, but there's methods to being an idiot. So I'm not using tactics like taking advantage of the gun depression or anything like that. What I'm doing is trying to be a distraction and just irritate people. And as I'm sure we have all seen 1,000 times, and as per that last KV3, you can have several big guns pointing at you, yet when one little fast tank goes flying past, you seem to turn the gun at that tank and ignore all the other big nasty things pointing at you. Now in this circumstance, the IS-6 does the right thing. I'm a one-shot to him, so he can very quickly take me out, and I'm one less problem for him. And for a moment, I actually thought he was going to win, because if you look at that 112, he just sat his side onto him. He did angle then, but I pooped it at first because I literally thought, oh god, they're going to screw it up. But it's okay. It was a win. Again, the reason I wanted to put this one in is it just tickled me. It's a good example of how to irritate people. Now, I fired a fair bit of APCR in that because, well, big heavy tanks and being an idiot, but I still made 44,000 credits. So, is the Amx Cdc worth it? If you don't have Dracula, hell yes. If you do have Dracula, it's still worth it. But it's your call on whether you think it's worth spending cash or trying to get it from the intel. But that's obviously down to you and how much you really want this tank. I hope you've enjoyed what should have been a very short review / preview, whatever it was. Thanks for your time, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.